Hey, welcome. Parshas Behar. Parshas Behar. The Nesivos Shalom is going to attempt to give another answer to a famous question that is brought by Chazal. Rashi brings it in this week's Parsha. In Parshas Behar, it says, "V'yidaber Hashem al Moshe Behar Sinai Lemar," which is a very, very unfamiliar way that Hashem talks to Moshe. Hashem usually says, it says in the Torah, "V'yidaber Hashem el Moshe Lemar." Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, why does it say in Har Sinai? He's been in Har Sinai for a long time already, and many laws are there. Why all of a sudden is it saying about this law of Shemitah that is about to say, the law of the seventh year that the fields should lay fallow? Why is it all of a sudden now saying that we're in Har Sinai? What does one have to do with the other? So then he asks another question. He says, if once we're talking about Shemitah, right? Shemitah is very much like Shabbos, right? So you work 6 days, and then the seventh day you rest. You work 6 years, the seventh year you rest.
It's even called Shabbos.
Right? So therefore, well, what? Even what?
I thought it's even called Shabbos in the Torah. It's even called Shabbos in the Torah.
Right. 100%. Yeah. So it should be the way that Shabbos is introduced: 6 days you rest, you work, and then the seventh day you rest. Right? So therefore, it should say Sheish Shanim Tizra Sadecha. For 6 years, you should plow your, plant and plow your field and your vineyards, and then the seventh year, you should not do anything. You should let it rest. But what it does instead is it starts out by saying Ki savo el haaretz, when you come to the land that I'm giving you, v'shav sa'aretz Shabbos Hashem, that the land you should rest. What happened to the first 6 years, right? Why is the Torah not mentioning the first 6 years? First, it should be first, and then afterwards, v'shav sa'aretz, that the land should rest. Okay, so those are the two questions. So he says the first paragraph that he's talking about is going to be more like a little bit of a summary of last week's, the mimer that we did last week. And he says like this. He says that the whole purpose that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world is for us, right? We are the purpose of creation, right? The man is the purpose of creation, and the purpose of man is Klal Yisrael. And what is our purpose? Not just to be created, but to serve Hashem in a way that we come to our destination, which is Kedusha, holiness, right? We come to sanctity. That's where we're striving towards sanctity. So, and we know because it says more than once in the Torah that it says, "V'atem tiyu li mamlechas kohanim v'god kadosh," that Hashem tells us that you should be for me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. And then it says in a different place, "V'anshe kodesh tiyun li," you should be holy people. And then it says, "Kadoshim tiyu li ki kadosh ani Hashem Elokechem." You should be for me holy because I am Hashem who is holy. I am holy, Hashem your God. So we know that's the goal of Klal Yisrael, is to be holy. But the holiness, as we said last week, the holiness is in Olam, Shana, and Nefesh. It's in time and in the world, and in time and in ourselves. There's 3 different areas that holiness can happen. And it happens in the world, in time and in ourselves. So in order for us to be able to come to our potential, the highest potential, we have to have all those 3 things. We have to be in the holy place, meaning where we are now in Eretz Yisrael. We have to have in the holiest time, be in the holiest time, And then we also have to have ourselves, make ourselves holy from this.
Time means like generation time, or time?
Time means a day. A day, a period of time, right? So, so therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave the land of Israel, Eretz Yisrael, to Klal Yisrael, because that's the place that we need to be able to reach our potential, right? And that's like Rabbi Yehuda Halevi said. We also mentioned this last week. Rabbi Yehuda Halevi in the Kuzari, he says that Eretz Yisrael is given to Am Yisrael because it's like a mashal having to do with a person who wants to oh sure I don't know. Thank you. A person who wants to plant a vineyard, the best place to plant it, or the only place that it really will work, is on a mountain, right? That's where it works. So the same with the Jews. The Jews can only really thrive in Eretz Yisrael. Yes, we can come to high potentials other places too, but if we really want to reach our full potential, it's only going to be in Eretz Yisrael. So, that's the only way that we can be able to have our Torah should be complete, our service to Hashem should be complete, and also the fact that Hashem is going to rest the Shekhinah upon us really is going to be when we're in Eretz Yisrael. So that's Kedushas HaMakom. That's the sanctity of the place, which is Eretz Yisrael. Then the Kedushas HaZman is Shabbos, right? The Kedushas HaZman, the sanctity of the time is Shabbos, because Shabbos is when it first said in the first Parsha of the Torah, it says, "Vayevarech Hashem es Yom HaShvi vayikadesh oso." Right in the beginning, it was only Shabbos wasn't called Shabbos; it was called Shvi. It was called the seventh day, right? But it says, "Vayevarech Hashem es Yom HaShvi." Hashem blessed the seventh day, vayikadesh oso. Not only did He bless it, He made it holy. So therefore, that's the holy time. The holy place is Eretz Yisrael. The holy time is Shabbos. And also it says in Rishis Chachma that Shabbos Kodesh, like we know that Shabbos is the source of all blessing, but it's also the source and the spring where everything, all the holiness comes from. Also, that's where the holiness comes from Shabbos. So blessing and holiness comes from Shabbos. So and then the last thing that we need is the kedusha of ourselves, our own sanctity, right? Because we have to strive to be holy. So when we get all three of them together, the kedusha, the holiness of the place, the holiness of the time, and our own holiness, then we come to the purpose that Hashem created the world. Okay? That is the whole purpose of to fulfill the will of Hashem. So, in order for him to continue his answer, he explains what we're talking about now, Har Sinai, right? And we're asking, why is it that Shemitah is mentioned, Har Sinai is mentioned by Shemitah as opposed to all the other laws that is not mentioned Har Sinai? So he says, what was Har Sinai? Har Sinai was Kabbalas HaTorah. We accepted the Torah in Har Sinai. That was the purpose of going to Har Sinai. So therefore, we know that if we go to Har Sinai right now, right, we can do whatever we want on Har Sinai. We can have a barbecue there if we knew where it was, right? It's not a problem. Right. But at that time, right, it had Kedush Makom. Hashem made it holy for that time. Even though it was temporary, but he made it holy. And it made it holy so much so that Hashem first told Moshe that that the people should stay away from it. They can't go to the mountain. And then afterwards, he told Moshe to put a fence around it, which is where we get the parable, I guess, the mashal of having a fence around the Torah. Like muksa is a fence for doing a Shabbos malacha, right? So the Chacham make a fence around the Torah, so there's a fence around Har Sinai. And Moshe answered Hashem and said, no, you already told us, right? You already told us that
Is there more chairs outside?
You already told us that that we can't go, so therefore, why do I have to put a fence? They can't go. Finished. So I heard this from, and Hashem told him still he has to put the fence up. I heard this probably close to 40 years ago from a friend of mine, Shmuel Fisher. He heard it from his Rosh Yeshiva of Osman, and tells in Riverdale, and he said a beautiful shot. He says, when a person's on top of like a staircase that has 10 stairs, and somebody tells him jump, he says, no, I don't want to jump. I'm not going to do it. I say, why should I jump 10 stairs, right? But if he tells him to jump when he's on top of the Empire State Building, he's going to say, I can't, even though he can, right? Like he's on top of the Empire State Building, he's going to say, I can't. Right. If somebody tells him jump, he's going to say, I can't, even though he actually physically can, right? But he's going to say, I can't. Why? Because it's so scary that it's not even, he can't bring himself to even think about it, like let alone do it. What?
It's like going into the result.
Right. Only crazy people. No, sorry. I just went there last day of Pesach. So anyway, so that's the same way Moshe Rabbeinu was. Moshe Rabbeinu was at the level that if Hashem told him not to do something, that it was, he can't. It's like the top of the Empire State Building. I can't. Hashem told me not to, I can't. So Hashem said, no, you still have to make the fence because they're not at your level. Right? So that's why you have to make the fence. Anyway,
famous story of the Moshe Feinstein that he was going into this measures and he stopped something. And I asked him why he stopped. There's a wall. What do you mean? Because someone's down in Shnesser.
Right.
He saw a wall.
Right. He saw a wall. Right. Because you can't stand in front of, you walk in front of people that are davening. So he says there was a wall. Right behind you. So what is it with?
There's a wall right behind you. I can do that.
Okay, so we see from this, what is it that we see from this? What is so important that Hashem, he could have simply gone ahead and given the Torah in Eretz Yisrael. It is a holy place, period. Why do you have to go ahead and make Har Sinai holy for a certain amount of time? Why did Hashem do that? Right? So he says that we know, how do you translate domain? How do you translate domain?
Inanimate.
What?
Inanimate.
Inanimate object, right? So it's an inanimate object. That's what Har Sinai is. Hashem took an inanimate object and made it holy, right? So therefore, we had the place. That was the place, Har Sinai. Then we had, there's many, machlokos in Judaism, right? We have a lot of disagreements in Judaism. But one thing everybody agrees on, that the day that they got the Torah was Shabbos. Okay? So that was Shabbos. So therefore, we have the place is holy, we have the time is holy, and also, we also have the fact that Bnei Yisrael, through all waiting the 49 days of between Pesach and Shavuos, tuma stopped. Their impurity stopped. So therefore, they were also in a very, very high level. So they had kedusha. They were in a place of kedusha and they were in a time of kedusha, and therefore that's why it was a time for them to get the Torah. So, and not only that, to be able to explain what type of level they were on, it says they were even on a higher level than Malachim. And it said, Baruch Mimezbish, he says, it says, Kol Dibur v'Dibur sheyatzim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We know in the Gemara in Shabbos that says, Chazu Yisrael Acharein Yud Beis Mil. That every time that Hashem spoke, all the Bnei Yisrael went back 12 mil, which is a very far, I don't know, that's about 9 miles or something like that. And the Malachim had to go ahead and revive them because their neshama went away because they were so scared of the word of Hashem. So he learns. So Rav Baruch said one time on Shavuos, he screamed out and he said, "How is it possible that the Malachi Asharis, these Malachim, these angels, how is it possible that they had the chutzpah to touch these holy bodies of Bnei Yisrael? How is it possible? Because they were so holy. How is it possible?" So he says that what they had to do, they didn't have a choice. Their avoda was dependent on Bnei Yisrael. So if they didn't have Bnei Yisrael weren't alive, they would have no purpose in them at all. So therefore, they had no choice but to revive them. And
because then they would lose purpose.
Right.
For themselves.
Right.
They have no job.
Right. There would be nothing. So therefore, we see that at that time they were. That this is another proof that how holy they were. Okay, so there's a holy place, holy time, and we were holy as well. And then it says. So now we're going back to that. The question of why is it that it's out of order? It should say 6 years, plant your field, plant your vineyards, and then the 7th year, let it lay fallow. Why does it say it out of order that it says first lay fallow, and then it says the working of 6 years? So he says that in order for us to come, to be able to reach the level of shleimus, of completion, of actual, to our highest potential, we have to come to the place of kedusha. That's the first thing we have to do is to be in a place of kedusha, be in a place of sanctity, right? But the whole sanctity of Eretz Yisrael only happens, like the switch that turns it on is Shemitah, is laying the land fallow on the 7th year. So if we don't have that, then there's no holiness of the land. The land is holy only because we are here keeping Shemitah, right? That the only way that Bnei Yisrael, that Eretz Yisrael is holy is if Bnei Yisrael are here keeping Shemitah. Right? That's the way it becomes. That's like the switch that turns on the holiness.
But we are the Shemitah. Eretz Yisrael, we are the seeds, we are the fruits, we're also.
But if we don't keep it, if we don't keep Shemitah, it's not going to be it, right? It could be, we have all the potential and all the everything, and every Jew is holy no matter how high, if they do no mitzvahs. If they don't do any mitzvahs, right? They're still holy. But if they don't keep that mitzvah in Eretz Yisrael, automatically they get thrown out. Because Eretz Yisrael, we don't belong here if we're not keeping what Eretz Yisrael needs, right?
It's like a contract.
Exactly. But not just that, all the mitzvahs, but especially Shemitah.
It's like you said last week that everything has a neshama to it.
Right.
You said the Yom Kippur, the Shemitah, and the Yehudim that have a neshama.
Right.
Was there another thing, or was just those two?
This is basically it. Those are the things. So it's a Shabbos.
And Shabbat.
Shabbat.
Exactly.
Right. So okay. So we know that Shabbos has the power, has the source of all kedusha, all holiness, as we mentioned. And the fact is that so too, Eretz Yisrael has the power, is the source of kedusha as well. So therefore, the Torah had to say that the resting, the laying fallow, the land should lay fallow first, because otherwise the land doesn't have that power. First, the first thing that the Torah is telling us is what makes it have the power to be a source of kedusha. And then we say, so what is the reason why? So that's why it was out of order, right? That's why it says Shemitah first and then about the working of the land, right? And the other question was, what is Shemitah doing Har Sinai? He says, because of the fact that we mentioned before that the Shemitah, that in order for Eretz Yisrael, for the Bnei Yisrael to be able to accept the Torah, all three things had to be holy. So one of the things was the place. Therefore Hashem made Har Sinai, which is not holy, He made it holy for a certain temporary amount of time. So therefore, just like Har Sinai had Kedusha, even though it's an inanimate object, so too, in Eretz Yisrael has that Kedusha as well. And then, in order to really finish it up and to put like an icing on the cake, as what the Nesivos Shalom says, he says, and we see from Pirkei Avos. Pirkei Avos, the ethics of the fathers, starts out by saying, Moshe kibol Torah mi Sinai. Moshe received the Torah from Sinai. It should have said, Moshe received the Torah from Hashem. Why does it say from Sinai? So he says, all in line of what we've been learning, he says that how is it possible for a human of flesh and blood to be able to accept the Torah? That we are so materialistic, and we should accept something that's totally spiritual. How is it possible? So he says that we know that Har Sinai is domim, Har Sinai is inanimate, and even though it's inanimate, it still is able to not only be holy for a time, but be so holy that the Torah was given on that mountain. So, and that was what Moshe Rabbeinu gave himself encouragement. He gave himself encouragement. He needed his own chizuk because he was thinking, who am I to accept the Torah? Right? There's a vart that I saw in a sefer called Yeinav Shel Torah. Many years ago I saw this vart. It says, like, when Hashem wanted Moshe Rabbeinu to become the leader, right? It took Moshe Rabbeinu how long? 7 days. Rashi says it was 7 days to finally say yes, right? But when Hashem told him to accept the Torah, he said, okay, no problem. What happened? What happened to his humility? What happened? It didn't even take him 7 minutes. He said yes. And the Torah says that Har Sinai, he saw all the mountains around were all big, and Har Sinai was the smallest. He says, oh, it fits. I'm nobody. So that's why if the Torah is going to be on a low-life mountain, so I'm a low-life, so therefore that's what the Torah says. Anyway, but here he's saying, the Nesivos Shalom is saying that Moshe Rabbeinu needed chizuk, saying, how is it possible for me to be able to receive the Torah? He says, because I see that Har Sinai can have this kedusha that has there's no way that a mountain or anything can do any mitzvos or anything. There's no sanctity that can be brought to it, but yet it's holy enough to have the Torah, which was the pinnacle of creation, right? It's the blueprint of creation, right? So therefore, Moshe saw in itself, he gave himself encouragement. If that can have kedusha, so too I can have kedusha, and I can be able to accept the Torah. And the Beis Avram, his grandfather, says in the name of the Rabbi Radomsk.
Wait, Hashem, whenever he was giving the Torah in Al Sinai, he said either I drop this mountain,
Or you accept the Torah, or I drop
so
it.
they had no choice. It was like we're gonna die.
Okay, but that doesn't negate what we're saying, right? How does that? What's your question?
I'm saying that he didn't really have an option whenever.
No, Moshe is saying he didn't say I'm not doing it. He didn't say like I don't want to do it, or if it wasn't that. That's the point. The point what Moshe was saying that if I am a piece of flesh and blood, how am I, who is materialistic, going to be able to accept such a spiritual, right? He didn't. The fact that Hashem that's a whole reason why Hashem put it on top of us and why He didn't give us a choice, and that's a separate issue. Moshe beforehand, right, or actually afterwards, right? Moshe afterwards, when Moshe was getting the Torah, right? So Moshe said, "How am I to be the conduit to accept the Torah if I am not holy enough? I'm not holy. Who am I?" But the fact is that the mountain itself is made holy, so therefore I can accept it too, because anybody can understand that we're holier. Even a non-Jew is holier than a rock, right? Okay, not a rock. Anyway, so
Definitely not. Arak is definitely holier.
right, that's for sure. So so he says, the Beis Avram says in the name of the Rabbi Radimsk, he says that in the pasuk it says, "Adam ki yakri mikem carbon lashem min habehema min habakar umin hatzayin." Right? It says that a person should, when he brings a carbon, he should bring from either a behema, bakar, the tzon, from an animal or a sheep, whatever. So he says that a person who wants to be able to bring a carbon, what is a carbon? A carbon has become closer to Hashem for whatever reason, because I sinned, or because I feel I want to bring something to come closer, or because I want to thank Hashem, whatever the case is, right? So in order to do that, he has to learn a kal v'chomer. How do you say that? A fiyatori? Right? A fiyatori? In English, a kal v'chomer, he has to learn a kal v'chomer from an animal, right? If an animal that has nothing, right? There's no way, an animal's alive, right? More than an inanimate object, but it can't become holy, right? But yet it becomes holy right before it becomes a carbon, right? And why? Because a person says words. Those words that says that I'm going to make this animal holy, right? I'm going to make this animal holy, and therefore it's going to become a carbon, and then it's holy. Once I say that I'm going to make it into a carbon, then that's it. So, all the more so, if a person says, I want to be holy, if I can say that about an animal, right, cannot do any one mitzvah, right, then for sure I can say about myself.
If they
Right?
like then Adam ki yakri mikem also.
Right, mikem, right.
I didn't know you were saying those words.
Yeah, that's what I said, those words.
I thought you just-
Right, Adam, it's recorded.
I'm sorry.
So, no, it's
It
okay.
is recorded. I didn't know that.
Adam ki, that's why it's here. Adam ki yaakov mikem, right? That it has to be from us. That we have to go ahead and take that lesson from a person who goes ahead and just says a few words and makes an animal holy. So too, I can become holy. And therefore, Moshe was kibol Torah mi Sinai. He was able to accept the Torah from Sinai because he felt that, yes, I got the Torah from Hashem, but who am I? Sinai. Oh, now I understand. And that's why Hashem chose to give us the Torah on our Sinai instead of just bringing us to Eretz Yisrael, because he said that, listen, if a person if an inanimate object can have a holiness for a short period of time, so then for sure we can.
Well,
right? Our time in this world.
Well, and also I like the way you say he looked around and all the other mountains were bigger. Surely they would have been better to receive the holiness.
Right, right.
Because they could contain more of it. But,
And we're the smallest of the nations.
Right.
Right, the same thing.
Yeah, we contain the holiness.
Right. So therefore, that's why it says that Sinai, from the lesson of Sinai. That's how he is able to make this kavachom, this fiatori, to say that from the holiness of Sinai, that it was still able to have the Torah accepted upon it. We should be zochet b'Hashem Yisroach to come. We're coming close. Have another few weeks to Shavuos. We should zochet to be Makabel Torah the way that Hashem wants, and thereby getting Mashiach Tzidkenu b'Meher v'Meinu.
Amen.